Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. You're watching Let's Talk Racism Ireland. It's your host, Harrison Paul, and today we're going to get into another situation that's happening in the news. It's happening across the water, though, with our good sister, Claudine Gay. Claudine Gay is the first black and female president of the renowned Harvard University. And unfortunate circumstances, she was forced to resign due to allegations that she was allowing or pushing anti-Semitism. This one is, of course, it's quite dear to my heart because first things first, and I want us as black people to kind of hone in on this, black people in Ireland, because I was unaware that the actual, president of Harvard University was a black woman. And first things first, I was just already in awe with like, wow, you've gone that far. You people are, I really do look up to our brothers and sisters in America, African brothers and sisters in America, because they're just pushing the needle for us. And I really respect that. And I always ask myself, how soon are we until we young black girls can dream here about being the president of Trinity College, And I want us as black people to understand that when I'm pushing this topic, a lot of time people think that it's about, oh, listen, no one calls us the N-word on the street anymore. And it's like, can you understand that the things are bigger than that? And we're actually trying to become the president of Trinity University, or the Taoiseach of the country. And this is why I mentioned the history, so we can all understand that, we have this belief that, oh, Ireland doesn't owe us anything. And it's important, and I post about it, and I told you guys, and I'm going to repeat it now. I came across this guy called Liam Hogan. He is a Liberian and, a Liberian and a historian. And he literally uncovered loads of historical facts, and he did like a thread of tweets, literally outing his own people with so much respect to his honesty, and saying, listen guys, we've always had this presumed innocence that was the British, that it was the Americans, but look here of the amount of information. This is so much information, it looks like a degree. Now, take it from a guy who didn't go to college, but there's a lot there. And like I was really appreciative, like, wow, it's been there, and it's been sitting there since 2016. It just says about information, right? It's like, if we were looking for it, was anybody looking for it? But there's a lot of retweets on it, and I just loved it. And understanding that makes you understand, like, wow, I'm entitled to something in Ireland. No, it doesn't mean because someone generations ago, took from your homeland and took from your people, now you can just say, oh no, the game's over. No, okay, fine. It's not about tit for tat. That's fine. But you're not about to make me feel like I'm not entitled to anything in the country, the Republic of Ireland, especially in Britain. I'm entitled to a life here. And I think if we allow ourselves to be bullied by these people as though we're not entitled, or as though we've been done a favor, or as though we are beggars, because beggars can't be choosers, you will never get what you're worth out of this life. And I'll use this example, which I like, let's think of someone's house, right? There's this house, and as you can see, there's a brand new set, so I'm just thankful for that. And imagine I built all this set from your bank account. So you come to my house now, and you got all this set is here. You got the projector there, you got the lights, you got everything, and the vase and the plants and the thing, and just a lot going. And in the backyard, you got let's say I got a new patio, all sorts. And then you come to my house, and you're firstly unaware that I actually built this from your bank account. Or rather, my parents built this from your grandparents and using them and enslaving them. Now, when you're in this house and you say, can I have a cup of tea, please? I'm like, And I know I have a way of milking it and be like, you know what, I'll give you a tea. You want a sugar as well, do you? Well, you're asking for a lot, and like, all right, cool. You know what? Because I'm nice, I'll give you a tea and a sugar. Guess what? Here you go. And you're just thinking, you're calling all your friends like, yo, Harrison's mad nice, And I think we get caught in that as black people a lot of the time. Like, I got a cup of tea. And then we actually fight other black people who have come to the understanding and the knowledge that, did you know you gassing over the tea? But you pay for this a lot. That house you should be discussing about, joint bank account. You know what I mean? Because that house is practically yours too, and you got some of the tea, and then we like, no, we block out that information and we say, they're so nice because we got the tea. What are you talking about? And all your friend is saying, listen, it's time we had a different conversation. Because the conversation where we're gassing people over just being nice or, how do I say, tolerant is not cutting it, So when we go back to this situation here, and, that's the first thing I want to say to my Irish Africans, we want our kids to aspire to that. We're here, we migrated here, and we want to know that, listen, there are no hurdles for young black girls to become the president of Harvard. Americans are fighting their fight. Americans are understanding that, listen, we built this country. We're not about to sit here like we're visitors. And so much respect to them, So let's get into what's going on here with our hero of ours, Claudine, Gay. And I'm gonna play the her, the where she had the call for resignation during the House of Education Committee's hearing, and it's a tough watch. But at the same time as I was annoyed, I was thinking the way this woman shouts at her. Oh, just watch.
Dr. Gay, a Harvard student calling for the mass murder of African Americans is not protected free speech at Harvard, correct?
Our commitment to free speech...
It's a yes or no question. Is that corrected? Is that okay for students to call for the mass murder of African Americans at Harvard? Is that protected free speech?
Our commitment to free speech...
It's a yes or no question. So based upon your testimony, you understand that this call for intifada is to commit genocide against the Jewish people in Israel and globally, correct?
I will say again, that type of hateful speech is personally abhorrent to me.
Do you believe that type of hateful speech is contrary to Harvard's code of conduct, or is it allowed at Harvard?
It is at odds with the values of Harvard.
Can you
But
not say here that it is against the
also-
code of conduct at Harvard?
We embrace a commitment to free expression, even of views that are objectionable, offensive, hateful. It's when that speech crosses into conduct that violates our policies against bullying.
I can't even watch anymore. I don't like to see our people spoken to like this. But at first I watched this and I was like so angry because I was thinking to myself like, I don't like, I don't like us being talked down to like that. But then another thought came to my mind. I was like, this woman's probably lawyered up. She ready. She'd not go into a situation like this, without being firmly prepared. She's literally prepared, for all of this. And I'm so, again, I talk about African Americans and I talk about in my last video, just being totally equipped and understanding this fight and understanding what it takes to get what they're worth in what we call the white man's land, and it really shouldn't, because he built it from our resources. He's still building it from our natural resources. I want to add that footnote as well when it comes to, it's not just past things, it's neocolonialism as well. It's the fact that Apple and big conglomerates and the fact that there is no Apple, I guess, store or manufacturing company in Congo that can give jobs to the Congolese people. They just take the minerals, take them out. And we understand that when we look at the IMF, the World Trade, and all these factors. Sorry, I was shaking the camera. The IMF, the World Trade, and all these factors, probably because I was so angry, they purposefully do unethical business, and they purposefully have set rules, world trading rules, against Africa, that enable Africa to actually get out of the web that they set them in. Because listen, let's be real here. When the world made so much money off the minerals, uranium, cobalt, diamonds, you name it, cocoa, all things of Africa, we even think about Swiss chocolate. Swiss don't make chocolate. You know what I mean? They manufacture it, but the cocoa, where does it come from? Africa. And the number one supplier. So all these things that if they allowed Africa to manufacture it in Africa, meaning African people will get jobs. They do not allow for that because they do not want African people to. They've done so many things. Zimbabwe are still in sanctions for things that they did ages ago when they were trying to take the land back. They call it the land grab, taking back land that was taken in the first place. Yo, and they're still on world trade sanctions. Africa is not even allowed to trade with itself, barely. It trades more with Europe than it's allowed to trade with itself. This is wrong, you know? And so I know we dumb things on Macron and whatever, but it's not just Macron. It's the IMF, it's the European Union, it's the World Trade, and all these things. Summit. So, you know, like I said, African Americans have understood what they have contributed to America, and they're there to, you know, they come fully equipped, and they've had years and years to understand. Listen, this is how you cut down this tree. This is how we get what we're worth. And you know, one of the things here that I wanted to discuss on, wanted to touch on when I thought about this, I was doing a little bit of research on this whole anti-Semitism situation, and I am proud of this woman. I'm proud of her because obviously she understands that there are horrific sights going on right now in Gaza, and we pray for those women and children. And as a Harvard University, she's trying to find a way, obviously, to say it out loud. But if I would like to believe if she has a conscience, she's asking herself, well, how do I tell my students to become desensitized to death in general? Because you got children and even everyone's just responding to death, whether you're on Israel's side, whether you're on Palestine's side. I think there should be a response, a traumatic response to death, where we feel like, oh, but we become so desensitized watching it on our iPhones. And I'm quite proud of the you know, the people who support Palestine, and they will try say that, oh, they're calling for anti-Semitism. It's not the case. They're looking at a picture of someone dying and saying, what can I do to stop this death? What can I do to stop this death? And I think that we would have a very messed up world if there weren't certain people who could be no longer desensitized to these images. So I think her, as a president of a university, she's trying to think, listen, if I saw the images, if they see the images, how am I going to tell them to pipe down about the images that they saw? I don't think that equates to anti-Semitism. Even James O'Brien, I was watching a show, and one of the people who called in or texted in was like, you're discussing anti-Semitism. And he was like, listen, they had the ambassador on LBC, an ambassador to the UK of Israel. And she was basically saying how they're going to bomb the whole strip because, you know, Gaza had the Hamas had a tunnel underground, you know, and this was her excuse to bomb it. And James said something that was so powerful. He was like, okay, can you imagine the British saying that they were going to go and bomb all of Belfast? Because they said that the IRA had a tunnel underground after the IRA had made a bloody massacre in London Street on a day, you know, and it still wouldn't be justifiable. But on a different side of the world, there is a desensitizedness towards, listen, whatever gets it done, get it done. I think that if we were seeing those images happen around the corner, you know, in Belfast, I think there will definitely have been a call for ceasefire. And another thing that they said here, it was crazy what she said. I think it was crazy to be like, listen, basically go and watch it. We're going to bomb as much as we can. But the National Security Minister, Ben Gavir, he also said the war in Gaza presents an opportunity to concentrate on encouraging the migration of the residents of Gaza. Really, an ethnic cleansing is what this guy is insinuating. And I think what annoys me the most when I think about this is like goalposts constantly change. And I think when you are black and you'll learn, you're a foreigner of any sort, you'll learn that goalposts constantly change for you when they don't change for other people. And so, a statement like this, obviously this national security minister was not removed from his job because this is an anti-Palestine, regardless. Because I'm sure the argument that all the Ben Shapiro's and everything is making is that, listen, we're not anti-Palestinian, we just are pro-Jewish, pro-life for Jewish people, right? But now the problem is when you make absurd phrases like that, or even the lady ambassador, and you kind of make reckless, rhetoric like that about an ethnic cleansing, that's kind of insinuating an ethnic cleansing, you don't realize the dangers that you're causing and what they keep stressing. But the number one important thing to understand is this is where I talk about the goalpost change. Listen, the Europeans and the Jewish are like this because they're both white. That kinship, that that does a big thing when deciding what is going to cause uproar for any establishment or what is going to get a bypass. And here we have this lady and who's now getting stones thrown at her. They went and they looked at her background and they found out, right, that they said that she was done for plagiarism. They tried to pin something on her. Whenever you go up against any establishment, they will dig out your past and try to destroy you, right? So they tried to dig out her past and they found quote unquote plagiarism for her papers that she did when she was in Harvard graduating. This is, I've seen some wonderful guys say it on the Young Turks podcast or show. He was saying, listen, you got to be squeaky clean if they're looking for you as a black person and they're trying to say, listen, we need a reason to take her down. And all they could find was a false accusation of plagiarism about one of her papers. This is something they couldn't find before. And everyone now, right, has been talking about her illegitimate appointment for this job, how the way she was appointed, she was not qualified, she didn't have a long resume. I doubt it. I doubt it. I know people like as a black person, black excellence just seems to be never enough. There is absolutely no way that this woman who worked so hard her whole life can have got this role for absolutely nothing other than the fact that she was black. That's what they're trying to say. It's impossible because, we are always judged with a closer eye, especially for a role such as this one. But of course, when you're under this kind of a heat and under this kind of scrutiny, and when goalposts change and when any establishment wants to come at you and they've been wanting to take her job from her and they've never liked the fact that she was sitting in that role, they go in to try and dig out the past. And these are things that I want us to understand as black people, that when we begin to push these boundaries and look for these heights and go for these places, that we're going to find ourselves having to fight big, big fights. And in my next episode, I will talk about a situation as we have just passed the anniversary of our dear George Zinchenko, one of our brothers. And I want to discuss this deeply because it's important where we can understand as a people, okay, what type of consciousness, what type of mentality is it going to take to reach these higher places? And as you can see here, it's not easy for her. She's getting stones thrown at her, all sorts of things, and one of the main things I just wanted to say, this woman worked hard for her position. She worked hard for her position. And the last point I'll make is this. If for any case at all that this woman did not work for her position and it was given out of tokenism and her papers or whatever, her past has been dug out, we never had a system that ran off of merit. Yes, Joey Barron, there was a hierarchy or patriarchy that I'm not going to speak on white women's behalf because I don't do that. That's your own plight. I'm going to speak on black people's. But I do appreciate how sometimes white women can come and say, no, we saw it. We joined in on it, but it came against us as well, to our own detriment. But we joined in on it when it benefited us as well. But this patriarchy, where black people were at the bottom, we have parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles who worked so hard, so hard for many generations. And it's so wrong for you to say that. You always had a system that operated off of merit. You never had a system that operated off merit. You had people who were given jobs for affirmative action. So now when black people are getting jobs for affirmative action, it's a problem. Listen, if we're trying to flip the hands of times and rewrite history and in a positive and undo change in our systems, there are going to be moments where we look at things and say, listen, this is a moment we have to make a statement here. This is a moment we have to make a statement here. Whether you like it or not, this is a window to make a black woman the president of Harvard University. Because our past is something so deep that it's not like, okay, wipe it clean, let's move forward and forget everything ever happened. No, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to call someone anyway who's completely incapable of the role. Incapable of the role. She's going to be capable. You're trying to put her under the microscope because you feel that, oh, someone else could have been. Listen, you never had a merit. You never had a system based off merit. I'm talking to America. I'm talking to Ireland. I'm talking to the world. I'm talking to Western civilization. I'm talking to Africa. My mom has a famous story how, I can't repeat it now. I'll repeat it one podcast, but about how she challenged one of her white bosses when she used to work in the bank in Africa. And apparently, I can say it now, apparently the boss had said, Kane was walking through the hallways one day and he saw some white dude who my mom said he was probably one of the worst workers there. He was Irish. The boss was Irish as well. And he said to him, I forget his name. Let's say John. John, you're still in this department. By now, you should have moved up by now. And then that annoyed my mom so much, she said, because she knew she was a way better worker than him. He was so slackish. And she said, if he's supposed to get a role, I think she even said, either she said another girl or herself, so let's say Sarah has been working so hard and deserves a role by now, a raise. And he went red in the face because he didn't think a black employee would challenge him like that. And my mom ended up getting a supervisor role from that situation. So she's always been a bit of a freedom fighter, which is quite funny. But yeah, never been off merit, guys. It's never been off merit. Merit has been a facade. We know loads of people who are incompetent people who've had the role because they're white, because the white man would trust him over he trusts a fellow Negro or anything like that. So listen, I'm not mad even if out of the wild, they picked someone who was completely incompetent and not ready for the job. I'm still not mad at it because I know loads of my stories that my mother tells me, stories about all African men, and I always sit and talk to elders and get them to tell me stories. The last story I'll say, gotta say stories. There's a Ghanaian man I speak to. I meet him at the gym often, and he started to tell me stories about when he was younger, how tough it is growing up here when he migrated. And he talked about how he met a white woman. She took his name, and she noticed that, whenever that name would just not ring places, getting jobs, go to banks, certain places that the surname, they'd be like way off. So there came a point where they had a discussion about, listen, I think I'm going to take the surname off. It's going to be best for us. She takes the surname off, y'all. Apparently jobs were ringing in, houses were coming in, all sorts of things. And they watched their life get better. This man's around late 60s, probably 70. They watched their life actually get better. So it's like, and even one of my family members have a similar story in more recent times. So this thing about merit, don't worry, Mr. Imperialist. Your merit system never existed anyway. So it's certainly not under attack in this woke generation.
And I'm on a mission for you.